When you first start working with Lightroom, the first thing you need to do is import your files into Lightroom. Now there's 4 different ways you can do this. Firstly, you can import via tethered capture, which means that your camera is attached to a laptop or a computer via a tether cord, and as you shoot, the files are directly loaded into Lightroom so that you can preview the images on your computer screen as you shoot. This is really handy if you're shooting product shots, or a lot of portrait shoots are really handy to shoot in this way because you can see exactly what you're doing on a large screen. The next way to import images to Lightroom is via memory card. So after you've shot your images, you take your memory card and import your files directly into Lightroom that way. The next way is via an external hard drive. So you might have your files stored on a drive that might be from an existing shoot or previous shoots that you want to now import into Lightroom and edit. And finally, you can import images into Lightroom from the computer that you're working on. One of the best features of Lightroom is the fact that it processes your files in a non-destructive way. Now, what does non-destructive mean? Alright, so on the screen now I have an image that I have imported into Lightroom. It's a raw file, so this is the image straight out of camera, and I'm just going to go ahead and make a few adjustments to this image. Alright, and I might also convert it to black and white. So you can see that I've made some radical changes to that image. Now, if I go ahead and ask Lightroom to show me that image in the Finder, you're going to see that the raw file has in fact not changed. So this is the raw file has not been adjusted. So all Lightroom is doing is, as it's making the updates to the image, it is a live preview of what's happening. So basically, the edits are not actually happening to the file, it's just pointing to the file. So it's a non-destructive way of editing. So I can come back to this image in a year, 2, 3 years time and decide, you know what, I don't like this image as a black and white. I think I prefer to have it as a color image. So I can actually just come back, reset the whole thing and start again. I might want to cool it down. I want maybe something that looks a little more natural as an edit, or I might want to go and make it really warm. Instead, and again, I can search that image out, show in Finder, and basically it's still the same original raw image. It's not changing the actual raw file. All it's doing is previewing, giving you a preview of the image. So when you're importing your images into Lightroom, all you're doing is allowing Lightroom to reference those images. It takes the image, creates a preview, and then copies all the metadata and raw data from that file. If you open up a Lightroom catalog, you'll see that you've got 2 bits of data in there. One is the .idata file, which is just basically all the preview images that Lightroom has created from your raw files. And the other is .ircat, and that's the actual Lightroom catalog. That's where all the metadata is stored and all the changes to your files. But your raw files are not stored in that folder. Lightroom only references them. So when you're importing your images from a laptop or memory card, Lightroom by default will store those images in the pictures folder on your computer. If you're importing from an external hard drive, the images will be referenced from whatever folder they were originally in the hard drive. Regardless of the device that you import your images from, Lightroom by default will also create the Lightroom catalog in the pictures folder on your computer. One of the most frustrating parts of Lightroom for new users is constantly losing images or getting that question mark symbol that comes up. If you have your images on an external source, such as a hard drive or multiple hard drives, and they're all switch on, Lightroom will always be able to find your images. If you have hard drives that are not connected to your computer, Lightroom will be able to see the files in the Lightroom catalog, and you'll be able to use the library module of the catalog, but you won't be able to develop your images or use any of the other modules in Lightroom. So to make sure your files are always accessible by Lightroom, make sure that the external device that you store your raw files on is always connected to the computer that has the Lightroom catalog on it. Another way to work with Lightroom catalogs so that you don't lose your files, and this is my preferred technique, is to have my Lightroom catalog and my raw files stored in the same folder on the same device. So I like to keep my Lightroom catalog with my raw files and my edited files on separate folders on an external hard drive. And then when I back up the hard drive, I back up the Lightroom catalog as well. So this way I'm not having to constantly worry about what device has my raw files on it, and also not ever have to worry about a device not being connected.